Study Box.
Welcome to eStudy Box webinar. We are very happy to have you on our site. And today's topic is how to overcome speaking anxiety, English speaking anxiety. I would like to introduce our guest, Funda Gezer, instructor, and Faraz Gugio. Welcome. Funda Gezer graduated from the Department of English Language and Literature at the Faculty of Letters, Ankara University in 1998. She completed her master's degree in Applied Linguistics, Social Cultural Approaches at Goldsmith College, University of London. During her master's degree, she worked as a volunteer assistant to the director of the College of North East London. Also, she worked as a translator for a major project at Queen Mary College, University of London. After completing her master's degree, she did TEFL course at Teachers Training International School and returned to Cyprus in 2001. As soon as she returned to Cyprus, she started to work as a lecturer at the Department of English Language Teaching, Near East University. She started her PhD studies at King's College, University of London in 2008 and continued her doctoral studies at the Department of Curriculum and Instruction, Near East University. In November 2018, she received her PhD, and in July 2019, she received the academic title of Assistant Professor from the Department of Curriculum and Instruction. In September 2012, she began lecturing in other departments of the Faculty of Education. In October 2012, she was obtained as the Deputy Head of the Philosophy Group Teaching. She carried on her duty till February 2018. From February 2018 to June 2019, she took part in the classroom teaching department. In July 29, she was appointed as the director of the Turkish Preparatory School and coordinator of Turkish lessons for foreigners. Since September 2019, she has been directing the Turkish Preparatory School and coordinating the Turkish lessons for foreigners and lecturing the Department of Translation and Interpreting English Language and Literature and English Language Teaching. In June 2011, she took part in the organizing committee of the first International English Language Teaching Conference organized by the Department of English Language Teaching at the Near East University. Funda Gezer, who is a member of our Cyprus Educational Sciences Association, has articles published in journals, indexed in international scientific indexes, and papers presented at international scientific conferences. Welcome, Hocam. We're very happy to be with you. And
thank you.
Dr. Faraz Gugio. Dr. Faraz is an MA in English Literature from the University of Sindh and MA in International English Language Teaching from the University of Sussex, United Kingdom in 2018, and a PhD from the School of Education and Social Work, University of Sussex, United Kingdom in 2013. The thesis title for his PhD is Improving English Language Teaching in Large Classes at the University Level in Pakistan. It's a practitioner's research for making practical improvements in language learning and teaching. He has been associated with teaching English language and literature at the graduate and postgraduate level since 2002. At present, he's working as lecturer at the Botswana International University of Science and Technology. He has also taught as an ESL teacher at Maple Leaf International School in China. He's also working as a professor at the Institute of English Language and Literature, the University of Sindh, where he is in Lian for 1 year to work abroad. Apart from teaching, he has been conducting research in the area of English language teaching, critical discourse analysis, language identity, and stylistics. He has supervised several MPhil and and PhD students in these fields. Dr. Faraz's core interest at present includes research in the field of ELT, in particular improving critical thinking skills through language teaching. Welcome, Hoja. Your microphone.
Thank you so much.
I read through, but thank you for being over here on how to come over speaking anxiety in English. Is there anything you would like to add to the introduction before I pass on the microphone to Mr. Faraz for his... Is there anything you'd like to add, or should we just pass on to Mr. Faraz?
No, I'm okay. We can go on.
All right. So let's have a start then.
All right. Thank you so much. So I'll be the first person to speak, isn't it? Okay. Let me share. Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me to this talk. I thank Mr. Kazim Shah Lakiari for extending this invitation, and I also thank English Language Education Department near East University. So it's a real pleasure joining you and speaking to audience, your audience and audience all around, whosoever is listening to us on social media. So I thank you very much for this invitation. Right. I hope my screen is visible to you. So let me go through some of the things. Today we'll be talking about English speaking anxiety. And then these are the contents that we will be covering today. So we'll talk about definitions, which might involve a few technical terms in case people want to engage more in this area for research and for understanding purpose. Then we'll talk about some features of anxiety, and then we'll talk about some types of anxiety. Then in the end, I'll give you tips, or we will talk about tips that I'll be giving you. So how should I know I'm audible? Am I audible? Quite okay. So there's a chat box here, and my screen is visible also.
Yes, Professor Dr. Faraz Bugio, we can see you, we can hear you very clearly. Okay. You can continue. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. So let's talk about what is anxiety. So now it's fear of public speaking. Now, in fact, it's said that speaking in public is probably the biggest fear or the greatest fear. And then even the fear of snake, it's commonly said that it comes after that. So it's always a scary situation before you speak in front of audience. We are always nervous. It is demonstrated in so many ways. So it's not an ordinary thing. It's not something that only you are feeling. Everybody feels that. The level can be different, but it's something that everybody feels. So we may feel nervous, and then we may also completely get blocked out, or we become completely unable to speak anything. So we start shaking, sweating, we feel butterflies in our stomach, our mouth gets dry, and then there is a rapid heartbeat, and the voice becomes unusual as well, squeaky voice, or you can say high pitch and low pitch, which otherwise is not normal to you. So we feel these kind of things. So today we are going to talk about a few dimensions of it. But the most interesting part will be talking about how we can cover or how we can overcome all these things. Now, these are some of the feelings that we may face while speaking English or speaking in public. It relates more to with language learning, as we'll be talking about specifically, but then what we'll be talking about here can relate to any other public speaking as well. For example, trembling of voice, headaches, red cheeks, rapid heartbeat, dhak 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 from your heart, and then mouth trembling, you start bubbling, stuttering, and goosebumps, need to go to bathroom, you will feel that you need to visit loo and need to take rest. And then you can also have lump in throat, sweaty hands, and then also shaky legs as well. So these are some of the features that you may feel when you feel anxious. Now, this is, we will talk about it a little detail, what to do about it when these all things happen to you. One thing is that you need to understand that this is common phenomena and you should know what you feel when you speak English or when you speak in public. Let's talk about a few definitions before we start taking up this topic in more detail. So now, Donnie and Young, yes.
Dr. Farah, sorry to interrupt. Would you like us to share your slides, or you can share it from your screen?
Is it not visible? I have already shared.
Yeah, just give us 1 second. We can share it from our screen. Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
Thank you. You may continue, please.
All right. Thank you so much. So now Donnie and Young define this phenomena as something which is complex and multidimensional. It is partly related to an individual's personality, partly to situational factors, and partly to more general socio-educational and political factors as well. So it means these can be inherent personal characteristics. And then also at different situations, you might face this phenomena. And also because of your educational background and some political factors can influence your speaking ability, and you feel anxious, you feel apprehension. However, in 1986, Howard and Coop also defined this phenomena. They consider it as a distinct complex of self-perceptions, beliefs, feelings, and behaviors related to classroom language learning arising from the uniqueness of the language learning process. So you feel anxious, and then there is a belief about this that causes you feel anxious. Then we have this definition from McIntyre and Gardner. They consider it's a feeling of tension and apprehension specifically associated with language, second language context, including speaking and listening and learning as well. So the moment you encounter these situations where you have to speak, you listen, you go for learning, you feel anxious. So what are some common features of it? So common features are what happens in that you feel that there is a fear. You cannot talk well. You cannot communicate well. Then also you feel distressed. You can also feel that it's nervousness that you feel that we already talked about. You can also feel that you cannot put your words in or thoughts in order. You cannot speak properly. Otherwise, you may be really good at speaking, but when it comes to real speaking in public, things become totally different. Now, this is something which might define our phenomena of anxiety. So we often feel, this is a very famous meme on English language teaching or English learning, English in my head versus English when I speak. So in your head, you may be perfect. Your pronunciation is excellent. Your sentence structure is awesome. You can really speak some impressive words. But when it comes to speaking in public, your English becomes something like this. So it's something that we all have failed. My English is not my native language. And for many of my listeners, English is not their mother tongue. So it's quite common. Once the situation is over, English comes back to us and we start speaking fluently. So this is what I found quite relevant to our context. Now, there are researchers have defined various types of communication apprehensions. Now, it's really important to understand what type you are facing. You know, it's a common adage that normally doctors say that if you diagnose a disease well, the half of the problem is solved with diagnosis. So you know what the problem is, and then you go for a specific solution for that. So if you understand what type of communication apprehension or communication anxiety you feel, you may start working on that. So there are 4 types of communication apprehensions or communication anxiety. Trait-like, generalized context apprehension, and then you can have person group apprehension, and then there may be situational communication apprehension as well. Now, what is trait-like anxiety? Now, this is embedded in personality because of your emotional factors, because of your psychological factors. You may not be able to speak well in any of the situations. So it relates to all situations and all, because this is how you are, this is what your characteristics are, this is how your personality is. So you may feel apprehension, you may feel anxiety when you speak, even when you write, or even when you are doing sign language, you may feel that. Although it happens quite less in written, if you know English well. But I have also seen people, they cannot write a single sentence, but once they start, they go on doing it. It's quite similar in speaking as well. So in the beginning, we feel more apprehensive, we feel more anxious, but when things start get going, we can see that our anxiety or our nervousness decreases with the passage of time, or when we build the flow also. So it's quite common phenomena, we all feel that. The second trait is generalized context CA, which is people feel a different kind of apprehension depending on the situation. For example, when you give presentation, otherwise you may be quite okay, you can give quite good talks when it's one-to-one, but then when you are presenting in front of bigger audience, you may feel this kind of apprehension. Or it may be context related situations, such as, for example, meetings, or when you give a speech, when there is two-way conversation, or interviews, for example, public speaking, or small group talk. So these can be generalized context where commonly, even if you're not feeling apprehensive otherwise, you might feel anxiety in these situations. Then there is person group CA, which is this kind of CA varies according to the communication with the target individual or people from time to time. For example, when you speak to any teacher for the first time, or if the teacher is new, you might feel apprehensive. But once you build a flow with him or her, then you may overcome your anxiety. Similarly, if you meet any person for the first time, you might feel apprehensive. But then afterwards, when you build flow, when you start communicating, when you have communicated enough, then you will overcome that. So now typically this happens with seniors, bosses, or teachers. And that also is not a permanent phenomena. For some people, it may continue to be like this forever, but then there are people who can overcome this phenomena quite easily. In this perspective, what I've seen that normally European students do not feel very apprehensive in front of their seniors, bosses, and teachers. Whereas in our context, in South Asian context, in India, Pakistan, or in Bangladesh, the way we position seniors, the way we position our bosses, or the way we position our teachers, the gap is quite wide. So when there is wider gap, there is more apprehensive. You feel more apprehensive. You feel more anxious, or anxiety is quite visible in these situations. So maybe we'll talk about that, why this happens, or why this is different sort of education. And why the differences are the way they are. But to give you just one or two liner explanation of that, the status of teacher and senior is quite in our context, in South Asian context. Although it's changing, but it hasn't changed quite much. Whereas my European experience was quite different, and I'll say that even China was quite similar to what we are in South Asia, in India and Pakistan, where people always feel nervous. Students always feel nervous when they start speaking in front of teachers. The same students can be very much confident when they speak in their peers. So this is a third category where we feel, or third type of apprehension. Then there is situational. So it may change, it may vary. This type of CA varies according to the situation. Individuals face this kind of apprehension at various times and situations, and it may go away with the time. So it's linked with a specific situation. For example, maybe you face some situation like, let's say, accident, you missed your bus, or you couldn't reach in a meeting in time. You will feel nervous, you will feel anxiety, or let's say you're not feeling well, temperature or any other situation, or maybe something is keeping you preoccupied, and you may feel that you cannot speak well, you cannot talk well. So these four types are there. I'm sure we'll fit ourselves in one of the other situation, or at times these all four positions, four types may be relevant to us. Now, why do we feel anxiety? Speaking in front of others, as we said, is the biggest cause of anxiety. It's not that the best speakers that you see out there, they do not feel anxiety. They do feel. But when we speak foreign language, then we are conscious of our grammatical mistakes, we are conscious of our pronunciation, and then we cannot speak fluently or spontaneously. These things, when we know that we have to perform well, when we have to pronounce well, consciousness of it makes us nervous, and we may start speaking erroneously, or we make lots of mistakes. And then the fear of making mistakes, then lack of vocabulary, lack of pronunciation that we just talked about. And more importantly, when we speak English, we are constantly in a feeling that somebody is judging us. Somebody is looking at our grammar, our pronunciation, our sentence structure. And in foreign language, we can never be expert as native speakers are there. Now, although our target is to speak like natives, now since that is quite difficult to reach, difficult to achieve, we always feel that we are lagging behind. Now, sometimes you might have observed that if you know that other person speaks as good English as you are speaking, or as bad as you are speaking, you may become confident, you can talk well. But the moment you realize the other person knows English well, you become nervous, more nervous as well, because you start making more mistakes. You become conscious of your language. So we feel, because we feel, or we actually are being judged. Especially that happens in classes, in language classes, because when we speak, when we develop sentences, we know that other people are speaking. And in our phenomena, in our context, in South Asian context, a teacher would put us in a situation where we would speak, and at the same time he would ask students to point out his or her mistakes. Now, when we know that we'll speak, and then our mistakes will be pointed out, our confidence goes low as well. So in the end, I've got a few tips for teachers. I hope they'll be helpful. So we will ask, or we'll request teachers to avoid putting people in these situations if they do. If they don't do this, really great. Now, what happens if you feel anxiety? For example, you are anxious. Now, it's not just your language that gets affected. Of course, it does get affected, but it affects your even motivation as well. It affects your performance. Once you feel anxious, you wouldn't be feeling confident, and then you wouldn't be feeling motivated to learn. So many people do not learn English, or you cannot learn so quick, is because of their anxiety. So it's really important to understand it, so that we may overcome it, and then we may benefit from English language or any other language. We are focusing on English language as well, but then this relates to any other language. Like, for example, I have started learning Chinese these days. I feel almost similar problem that I faced when I was learning English. So it's relate. You can relate it with any other language learning if you want. So now let's understand what are the factors which increase anxiety. Now, presentation, the moment we ask you to give presentation, the teachers ask you to presentation, your confidence goes low. I have hardly seen any of my class. I can't recall. Maybe even if it was feel confident, but the moment I tell them tomorrow there is presentation, and the voice goes, "Oh no, can we postpone it?" And then they keep delaying it. This is quite common. Then sometimes if we pick somebody, some students randomly, okay, you come and you speak in front of the class, we feel anxiety as well. Then if we receive negative feedback that I just talked about, students are conscious of it, or if they are made conscious of negative feedback, their confidence level goes down and anxieties overcomes them. Takes over them. Then informal assessment. The moment you know that you are being assessed through your speaking, you feel anxious. And then being singled out. If we say that, okay, not these two people, these ones, how is your English? Let's you talk about it. Now, singling out also causes anxiety. And input that is too challenging. When we give feedback, if the feedback is generic, if it is too challenging, then that also causes anxiety. Then these are some factors which can reduce. For example, working in small groups. Students feel very confident. I did research as in my intro. You learn that my PhD is on improving English language teaching in large classes. Now, in large classes, one of the biggest problems that we faced was not everybody was taking part in speaking, or not everybody was giving contribution or wasn't asked to participate. So what I did in that, I divided entire class in small groups. So what happens is students feel more confident. By the time we finished our research or we finished our experiment, I saw that students' confidence level went quite high. So working in small groups works really effective, and especially in small classes, because students feel less threatened. They are not singled out. So that can be really helpful. Playing games. Now, even if you feel the students are not performing well in traditional setting classrooms, the moment you announce any game, everybody knows naturally or automatically that it's something we are going to enjoy. So if you play games, their anxiety gets down as well, or it's eliminated completely. Offering opportunities of interaction. The more they speak, the more they participate, the better they'll get at that. It's like being expert on any other skill. Like if you remember, when we started learning driving for the first time, everything looked new to us. How to touch gears, or how to give brake, or how to hold steering. So we were conscious of everything. But then with the passage of time, when we started practicing it more, so it's same with this English language speaking skills as well. The more you practice, the better you get at it, and making students feel cared for. So removing negative feedback, giving them feeling that they are being they are being cared for, can help a lot. And then alternative assessments also. Those are the end assessments that we normally have exams. We can change that, although not all teachers have control over it, but wherever possible, you can improve assessment methods. You don't always have to scare. Now, when we were learning about testing, one of the very famous sentences we heard was that test students, do not tease them. So students need to be tested on what they know. But unfortunately, many of us or many teachers test their ignorance, not their knowledge. So if we start making sure that we are trying to assess what they know rather than assessing what they don't know, maybe we can do a lot favor in their general educational behavior, or especially in anxiety as well. and then creating a sense of community. For example, if you link people with each other, less threatened atmosphere, then this factor can help them. They will not feel anxious, or anxiety will be reduced slowly and gradually, if not quickly or faster. Now, these are some of the tips that I would like to give to everybody. So first is reflect on what the causes of anxieties are. So try to know where it's specifically you are feeling anxious and what you are doing. You remember the list that I gave in the beginning, some of the feelings, know what you are feeling, and then try to know the causes. Is it just pronunciation? Is it because when you're speaking with senior? Is it because of lack of preparation? So if you know that, you start working on that. Work on the causes through practice, and then start practicing it. Start giving prepared speeches. Now you can prepare 1 minute speeches. Do not go to 1 minute, 2 minute quite suddenly. Start giving yourself a speech for 10 seconds maybe, then increase it to 20 seconds, then give it to 1 second. So prepare on various topics, give speeches, give prepared speeches, and then slowly start doing extempore as well. So do it without rehearsal as well. If you are speaking in public, you know that you are going to talk, rehearse as much as you can. When you are rehearsing, do not just pay attention to your language, but see how your eye contact is, how your gestures are, how you are standing, how your posture is. All these things matter a lot. They can make you confident. And then watching yourself in mirror, because when you know, I was reading the other day about making eye contact. You know that maintaining eye contact is not easy, doesn't come natural to us. And that doesn't come, the research said that it doesn't come natural to us, because that's in DNA. It's in our DNA to avoid eye contact. You know, when you look at person, you feel threatened, or when we threat person, we look into eyes. So you know, our forefathers, when they wanted to avoid from being killed from animals, they would, or from each other, they would avoid eye contact. So you know, it's really difficult. That is in our DNA to be away or not maintaining eye contact. You can still see lions don't maintain eye contact, they avoid. So because looking into eyes makes you feel subject to prey, or if you feel scared that you might be killed. So anyway, if you're in front of mirror, you can see your eyes, and I'm sure you will not feel threatened from yourself. So you can see, you can talk to yourself. It might look odd in the beginning, but that can be really effective. Then record yourself. In the beginning, it might look funny the way you talk, and that's natural. But then that's how you talk. That's how other people listen you when you talk. So get used to your conversation, get used to your voice, and then find out where the problem is, where the fall or rise of the sound is. You can start working on them. So video recording can be more effective also. You can see your body language. And then we just talked about maintaining eye contact also, so that can help. So these are some of the things that I had to talk to you about anxiety. And then we also need to make sure we don't expect perfection. As second language learners, it's really difficult to reach to the level. And then nowadays, we should be happy that all different varieties of English or dialects of English are established varieties of English. For example, in IELTS, if you speak in Pakistani accent or if you speak in Chinese accent, you won't be penalized on that. You won't be, your marks won't be reduced on that. These all different accents, all these varieties are acceptable varieties. So do not try to speak native like. I mean, if you can speak good enough. If not, then don't expect that perfection. It comes with the time. So over expectations or more expectations might cause you lose your confidence. Control your negative thoughts. Of course, as language learners, what I have seen generally, we normally sail through the same boat. We are in similar situation. So people are kind generally, normally, unless people judge you, but then do not give yourself negative feedback, right? Then there are techniques that we can learn for relaxation. For example, breathing can be really effective. Or if you speak, if you give speeches, it's always good idea to do exercise, move your muscles. Actors, when they go for auditions, they normally tape your faces so that their circulation gets normal, the expression on their faces become natural and visible as well. So we can do the same technique in speaking also. We can do a bit of exercise, get our blood circulation normal, and then breathing also. It always calms down. So if you feel anxious, take your time, and a few breaths, 5 or 6 long breaths, and the normal breath will, of course, change you. But of course, it's really difficult to remind all these things of ourselves. So keep doing it till you get used to it, till you get expert on handling yourself or handling your anxiety. Then talk as much as you can, find more opportunities, speak over the phone in English if you're learning English, or Chinese if you're learning Chinese, or any other language, or Spanish or any other language. So try to find community these days with lots of social media networks available, lots of groups available on internet. It shouldn't be really difficult to find a partner who can speak with you. So find people who can talk with you, talk as much as you can. And when you find a partner for speaking, you would know that you are not the only one who is making mistakes. Other people are making similar mistakes as well. So that gives you confidence. So that'll be good. And yes, most importantly, when you are giving like presentation in classes, now what happens normally if somebody gives us negative feedback through looks, we normally pay focus on that, attention on that, and our confidence goes down. You shouldn't do that. You should find friendly faces who give you positive gestures. Look at them. That will boost your confidence. And lastly, you can hide your anxiety. How can you hide your anxiety? If you're sweating, bring handkerchief or bring tissue. You can wipe it out. It would look natural. Okay, this is something that you're conscious. You can wipe. You can, if it's a dice, you can hide your hands behind till you, because if you're shaking, you can hide your legs, and then you can come once you gain confidence when you are not shaking much. So these are some of the techniques that you can use. And then, as I said earlier, reflect what kind of issues you're facing, what kind of anxiety you're feeling, or what kind of reactions you're feeling, what are your symptoms. So start working on them separately, one by one, and through knowing them, by working on them, you can overcome your language speaking anxiety. Now, these are some of the references that I took for today's talk. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you have any question, comment, or anything to add, you are most welcome.
I would like to thank Professor Dr. Faraz Bugio. Actually, he gave us, how can I say, as a language teacher, because I have been teaching languages for many years. I have been teaching English as a second and foreign language, and likewise Turkish as a second or foreign language. But as you mentioned in your lecture, nothing changes. I mean, foreign language brings anxiety with it. So, but thank you very much, because you like. Okay, maybe it's difficult. Always reading is, and reading theories or reading the knowledge in the books or listening to them is different than like applying to them in our daily life. So I have been telling similar things to my students more than 20 years, but it's really difficult. But I believe the tics are very useful. So we can at least start trying these tricks, because I believe this is for example, as a foreign language speaker, or as an English second language, actually I had similar problems in the past, and like trying and, as you said, rehearsing, we can overcome, at least to a great extent. And there are things that we can do as teachers as well as students. So thank you very much again. But there is one issue that I would like to underline. You mentioned there is no perfection. So I totally agree with you, because our students, they think, and it's the same. It's the same in Cyprus, and as far as I heard from you, it's the same in your country. So students are students, learners are language learners. So when I look at my students, they believe that when I reach the level of perfection, okay, then I can speak freely. No, I mean, this is not the case at all, because you are the learner of second language or third language, or maybe a foreign language to some of them. But reaching perfection means being or speaking that language native-like level or native level. This is not really necessary nowadays. As long as you speak it clearly and your pronunciation is understandable, it's okay. You don't have to be like native speakers. And I'm always proud with my accent. Why? Because I'm not a native speaker of English. I'm a Turkish-speaking person. Yes, Turkish is my first language. So of course, I will have some accent in my English. So I have been trying to say this to my students. And as you said, Professor Dr. Faraz Bogio, if they can reach, and if they are okay with it, okay, let it go. But I mean, you don't have to reach that level of perfection in pronunciation. So this is what I can add. Not I can add, but I mean, I just wanted to emphasize that I have been experiencing the same things. But thank you very much, because for myself, it was very, insightful and helpful. So I guess it's the same for our students or whoever listening to us here. So it was pleasure to have you here in our university. So maybe we can organize a similar webinar in the very near future. So thank you. Thanks a lot for being here.
Mr. Faraz and Doğucan,
Thank
thank
you
you, both of you. But we have a question from our students. One of them wants to know what happens when you are frozen. They say that some kind of a hot flush comes in from the neck upwards, and they forget everything, and it's silent, and inside their head it's numb. In this situation, what can they do? And also, they don't want to reveal that they're not sufficient enough. Did you?
I couldn't completely hear the question. I'm sorry.
Okay. The question is, what can they do if they are frozen on stage and they are in hot? Oh, you can't hear me. All right. What can they do when they are frozen on stage and they feel the hot sweat and their mind is empty suddenly? They forget about everything. Like the shock, I guess.
See, we have to understand that we all feel a similar situation. It does happen. So think of any, first of all, as I said in my lecture earlier, look at the familiar faces. They'll boost your confidence up. And then it's always good idea to remember your intros and your end in practice, because once you do that quite often, they'll come suddenly to you. It's good idea to remember some sentences, memorizing, although as language teachers we don't encourage people to speak from memory, but it's always good idea in public speaking to speak from memory. If you have sentences, then what happens? Your confidence boosts up, you keep going, your flow starts coming back as well. So once you are there, take some time. It's always actually normal. Do not take it serious. Do not be very nervous, because other people see what happens. People have been in similar situations. So do not get it, what you say, do not get it dominant over your mind. The more you think about it, the more farther you'll be going away from that. You must know it's temporary. You'll be okay. You'll be normal. Take your time, breathe one or two, you'll be okay. But if you start becoming conscious more about it, it's not going to get normal. You'll continue to be like that. I remember a few days back, it did happen in one of my classes. One of the students completely forgot. Otherwise, he was brilliant student doing wonderful presentations, but on that particular day, as if he didn't know anything. Then what he did, he went down. He said, "Sir, can I come back after 1 or 2 minutes?" I said, "Absolutely okay." He went there, took 1 or 2 sips of water. He became normal, and then he gave one of the best presentations. So maybe taking 1 or 2 sips of water will shift your mind. So try techniques to shift your mind from the situation where you are. You can do a number of things: thinking of memorize sentences, taking a sip of water, breathing. These techniques, I hope, would help you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the question was asked by a student, and he is probably appreciating the answer right now. Funda Hocam, another question is for you. Can you please tell us one of the time that you were anxious and how you came over it?
Sorry.
Okay, so I can easily say that this was happening when I was a student, especially during presentations. But as Professor Bugio said, this is a common phenomena. So it's not only like something experienced in that culture and not in another. So because it was a common phenomena, then I remember my first presentation at the university. So and it was not a personal presentation. It was a group. Although it was a group presentation, I was almost about to leave the stage. So and then because you have friends next to you and like teacher, you are lucky if the teacher is a friendly one and encouraging one and giving you positive looks. So if this is the case, you can overcome it at that very limited moment easily. So this is the one that I remember, because it was the first days. Yes, not even the first weeks, but the first days of my time at the university. So I wouldn't say that it was a bad experience, but it was something that then later I was quite pretty pleased that I had it, because it gave me a kind of feeling that I can do it at that time. So this was my first experience related to having anxiety in front of a crowded group or in front of your superior. Yes.
Hocam, is there any other questions? I'll ask the students till they write them down. Kazım, is there anything you'd like to add?
Thank you very much. I would like to say thank you to both Dr. Funda and Dr. Faraz for giving us their time and sharing their insightful knowledge and everything, and obviously more practical approach towards anxiety or reduction of the anxiety, because lots of time when you are watching any YouTube video or something, reading, it's more theoretical things in it. So thank you, Dr. Faraz, for your time and sharing your knowledge and experience. And and sharing your experience with the students. So I'm really thankful to both of you, and Aisha as well, for hosting this event.
To be honest with you, we will be practicing more after this. I do feel the anxiety within me in front of the camera. It's not an English-speaking anxiety, it's being in front of a camera anxiety with me, I guess. Thank you very much for joining in. Funda Hocam, thank you for sharing your session, your lesson with your students with us. And Dr. Faraz, thank you as well for having such a wonderful PTT with us. And we'll hope to see you next time. Before we end, I'd like to remind that 9th of December, we have Buy Knowledge Day, which we are trying to promote on eStudy Box. If the students or anyone else can just join in, register, you can buy knowledge instead of buying materials. And also we have Cyber Monday today, which is 50% off on all our educations. Have a look through, we'd be very happy to let you know that over 2,000 videos and courses that we have a 50% discount on all of them. So having said that, thank you very much for joining in and sparing your time for both of our instructors and for students joining in with the session with the questions as well. Thank you very much and take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Hope to be again in another adventure. Bye-bye.
Hopefully.
eStudy Box.